My name is Latosha Lewis. I'm running for the 295th Civil District Court, and I am running because this is a court that needs change, and I think I'm the person to bring change and bring more justice to the 295th. A little background about me: I have lived in Houston for the last 35 years. Moved here when I was 5. I'm the oldest child of a single mom who brought up 3 girls. I've been practicing law for 14 years after having attended Tulane University and University of Texas Law School. My practice area started out initially as an environmental litigator, doing toxic tort litigation as well. And over the years, I've expanded into every kind of litigation I can do in order so that I can get into court. The reason I want to go back to why I'm running and to bring about change in the court is because the court that I'm running for is known for having the heaviest docket of pending cases. It is last on the list in terms of all the other civil district courts for having the most cases pending. I believe that justice delayed is justice denied, and the more cases you have pending on your docket, the fewer litigants are able to obtain justice in those courts. The other point that I would make about the court is that it's also known for spending more months than it should in deciding on summary judgment motions and other motions that are presented to the court for decision. And so I think that we need more judges who are going to have the right perspective about the litigants to give every litigant of every color, race, and financial wherewithal a fair shake in court, and I think I can do that.
My name is David Rosen. I'm the Democratic Party's nominee for County Treasurer. I'm a lifelong Houstonian. I'm the son of 2 public school teachers here in Houston. I'm a former student body president at the University of Houston. I'm back at UH at night, a little bit more than halfway through my MBA, getting a degree in supply chain and business modeling. I work in oil and gas by day. There are 3 things that I want to do as your Harris County Treasurer. The first thing I want to do is use new technology to create an online portal, not unlike what Lauren Jackson did when he was district clerk, where as close to real time as possible, anybody with any type of device, any type of day or night, for any reason, can see money going in and out of our local government coffers. In the last 6 years, we've had 3 of our county constables indicted for alleged financial impropriety. We had a county budget officer and a county commissioner both resign their positions and plead out for alleged financial impropriety. And not the sheriff we have now, God bless him, but the guy before him was using jail inmates to do landscaping work on his ranch. We have a real problem here with a lack of transparency. We've got a very simple, nonpartisan solution that we've been talking about for 1.5 years across the county, and that's just to turn the lights on. This technology has been around at least as long as online checking accounts have been around, and it's a mainstream in the private sector. That's the first thing I want to do. The second thing I want to do is use the office to do some social good and bring some advocacy towards teaching some at-risk kids basic personal finance and basic personal finance education. There's one nonprofit I want to call out specifically called Skills for Living. You guys ever heard of Skills for Living before? They do great work. They go to these at-risk neighborhoods and they go in there and they say, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the kid says, I want to be a basketball player or a football player or whatever. They say, okay, try again. You could be a realtor, you could be a doctor, you could be an elected official, pick from this list. And they say, okay, where do you want to live? And the kid says, I want to live in a mansion. And Skills for Living says, try again, here's your salary as a doctor or a politician or whatever you pick, and tell me how you're going to afford this. There are a lot of young people that don't understand how credit cards or debt works. There are a lot of young people who don't understand how student loans work. I grew up in A-Leaf. When it was a pretty rough part of town. You're from there too, yeah. I grew up off of Beach Nut and Boone, and I had a lot of friends that I grew up with that made mistakes when they were younger that didn't fully understand the consequences of those mistakes. And I can understand the psychology and explain some of the psychology behind that. I'm really lucky I have 2 parents under one roof, and I'll talk about them in a second. But when you feel like you don't have a future to worry about or anything to lose in the future, it takes away the incentive to make good choices for some folks that haven't been taught otherwise. I want to give these kids the vision that they need to have the self-esteem and self-worth, to have something to look forward to, so they feel like they have something to lose, so they make some good decisions, so that we get at the root of the problem rather than just build more prisons like the other side wants us to do. And then finally, is the son of two openly gay public school teachers here in Houston who have been together for 28 years, married 2 years, but have never been able to share health insurance, still aren't able to share health insurance together, even though they're retired. I began this campaign by calling for same-sex partner benefits to be offered to the employees of Harris County. I'm going to keep talking about that for as long as I can. Block walking the other day in a neighborhood near Rice University, and I was, I was really passionate in explaining what I wanted to do. Not unlike what I just said to you guys, to this older married couple. And this guy interrupts me mid-sentence and he says, "How old are you, son?" I was like, "Well, I'm 29 years old, Mr. whatever his name was." And he said, "You seem like a nice guy. Why the hell do you want to go into politics?" I was like, "Oh, geez." There's a stigma, I think. If you're a young person and you put your name on the ballot, I think there are certain people who are going to be convinced until you prove them otherwise that you're doing it for the wrong reasons, that you're overly ambitious, that you daydream about being emperor of the galaxy someday, or for whatever reason. I got involved in politics because my parents are gay and because I grew up in the hood, and I happen to be very opinionated about certain things. There are certain specific issues that I want to see changed and certain problems that I want to see fixed. And that's the defense that I've always used against that type of skepticism, is, hey, I'm here because I want to see my parents treated equally. Hey, I'm here because I want to stand up for the young people that I used to be like a few years ago. So if you have a really good reason and you can explain it, easily, I think, that earns you some credibility. I was in the Chronicle screening today, and Jeff Cohen is the executive editor of the opinion page of the Chronicle. He kept asking me the same questions over and over, knowing what the answers were. He said, "What experience do you have in auditing an accountant?" He had my resume in front of him. But that was the point. He was trying to drive home like, "Young man, I'm going to pat you on the head. You mean well. It's a great story about your family, but you don't have the experience that I think, you might need for this job." Well, my opponent doesn't have that experience either. And I pointed that out. And I shifted the discussion away from specific experience and towards specific ideas.
And for me, what I realized is that throughout my life, similar to David, that I've done things that no one said that I would do, should do, predicted that I would do, and all because of having the guts to do something different and to do it a different way, not the way I was taught, not the way that I observed, but that a way that I just discovered on my own with the help of others. And so I think that you need young folks who came to the same place as other folks in a different way, because they bring something fresh, they bring something new to the process. As an example, I headed up as president about 6-7 years ago an organization that's been around for about 50 years. And when I became president, a lot of the older folks that were around when the organization was founded, or would come in and say, "Well, that's not how we did it back 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago." And I'd say, "Well, I appreciate that," and I would take all those comments in, but I would take their ideas and turn it around in a new fashion. And what I learned from that process, being open to understanding how it was done before, but also being young enough and fearless enough to just do it differently, that we ended up having a larger circle of young folks and older folks.
I had always had strong opinions, especially about social justice and gay rights, because of my background. I had a really career planned out, thoroughly planned out when I was 19 years old, and I knew everything about everything. I was going to be a newspaper reporter. I put myself through school as a reporter at the Chronicle. I interned there. I interned in Washington for Bloomberg News. I was going to be a newspaper reporter. That was all I was going to do. I was going to put my opinions aside. That was the career path I was going to go on. And I saw Barack Obama's speech in 2004, where he talked about his gay friends in the red states and coaching Little League in the blue states. And it's just like, I've got to get involved in this. I've got to help these guys somehow. And then the 2008 primary was the first time I voted in a primary. I've been energized ever since, and I don't think I'll ever go back. Really, that was an incredible year. It was just an incredible year.
For me, politics is definitely service. And service for me began in high school, but more significantly, it was college. I guess college changes a lot for folks. Because what I realized was that there were a lot of people that I credited to mentoring me who didn't realize that they were mentoring me. And so that turned me into wanting to be a mentor and develop more mentoring relationships. And so in the local New Orleans community is very impoverished, most people know, and it's a difficult city to live in if you're a young African American kid. And so we, although Tulane didn't have a lot of African American students, we would take 100 students every week to a local school to mentor them every single week. And what I learned through that, a lot of the kids, of course I was African American, they were African American, but they would tag my, pull my shirt tails and say, can I get a different mentor the first week? Mm-hmm. Because they wanted an African American mentor. And I'd say, well, we solicit volunteers from everywhere, and just give it time and you'll be okay. And I think that what I wanted to teach those kids, what I learned, is that your mentors come in all shapes and sizes, and they show up when you least expect it. And sometimes they show up and you don't even know that they're there. And the benefit of having those kids. And so I was involved in that program for 3 years, and I continued kind of being heavily involved in mentoring. And I think that that's this, running for judge is an extension of that, of ultimately wanting to serve people. You were a member of a fraternity, I was a member of a sorority, and our motto is service to all mankind. And I truly believe in that, and I truly try to live that, whether it's politics or just in the community.
Okay, my next question is, what issue specific to Harris County and Houston has come to your attention in the course of your campaign that wasn't one of your original motivations for running for office, but now you think is a worthy cause that deserves more attention?
For me, I think it's pro bono services and services to the poor in civil matters. And because I think that it's an issue that comes up every once in a while, mm-hmm. But that no one really knows how to get a handle on it and how to resolve it in the best possible way. Because we're not talking about criminal matters, we're not talking about matters that can create a lot of money on the civil side for the lawyers or for the folks involved. It's just really hard to get the manpower to tackle that issue. And so that's one that I didn't start this out trying to make that initiative, but I think it's a very important one that I would love to be able to get my hands around.
We've seen like this increase in property values in Houston, and there are a lot of things that people that I've met in the county think that the treasurer could do that the treasurer really can't do, but yeah. They want to talk to the treasurer candidate about it anyway, right? I've learned more about the appraisal district, in the last 6 months than I've ever thought I'd learn, until we're in the process of buying a home. So, I mean, I was gonna learn about it someday, but I mean, there's something that has to be done to let people know about the appraisal process. There has to be more public information made available about how to protest your appraisal or your assessment if you disagree with it. I don't understand why we haven't, been more vocal about that in the past. I mean, nobody likes paying taxes. We need our schools, we need our infrastructure, we need our emergency services, and everything else, government provides for people. But we need to let homeowners and property owners, especially maybe first-time home buyers that have never protested their assessment or knew they could protest their assessment, know all about their options. We're doing field, but we're pushing the straight ticket Democratic. My shirts are blue, my signs are blue. When we're out in the field, there's no question what team we play for, right? And I've got a secret weapon that is not going to be so secret anymore after tonight. There's a group of young people, 15 and 16 years old, that lived in West University Place last year that claim credit, and I give them credit, for defeating 3 city charter amendments in West U. They stumbled on it one day. One of them would have lengthened people's term limits from 2 terms to 3 terms. And the entire council was term limits, and the council wanted to see that happen. One of them would have made it more difficult to recall a council member. One of them would have made it more difficult to recall an ordinance passed by a city council in SU. And these 8 kids who play video games together, 15 and 16 years old, I don't know how they stumbled into this or what turned them on to it. They organized, they phone banked, they block walked, they worked the polls, and these 3 ordinances that faced no other organized opposition of any kind failed by 1 vote, 3 votes, and 16 votes. Now, they're hooked up with the Lamar High School Young Democrats, who are now, they're working for Kim Og, and they're working for me, and I think they're going to do some stuff for you as well. And we're pushing the straight ticket vote. We've got some brilliant 15 and 16-year-olds that are not to be underestimated, that most people have never heard of before, that are working for all of you guys.
Well, it's hard to top that. My volunteers are all 7, 4, and 2. So, although I did hear one thing I would implore young people to do is when my daughter started their first week of school, they took, her 7-year-old, 2nd grade, took, she goes to, they had to put in their bag of favorite things and to do a show and tell the first week. And she comes home and she says, look what I have, and it's my push card. And I said, what are you doing with that? She said, I took it to school. And I said, what'd you do with it? And she said, pulled it out and I showed it to the class. And I was like, and what did they say? And she said, they said, your mom's pretty. I said, I'll take that. And she said, she explained that I was running for judge. And so what I would say is, obviously with this, with us talking and with seeing young people who are willing to get out there and get involved in politics, I would encourage all the young folks, just talk to other young folks. I mean, whether it's on social media, whether it's at your college campuses, to just get out and encourage people to participate, be involved, because every vote counts, every single vote. I work the polls doing election protection, and it is critically important whether it's a vote by an 18-year-old, a vote by a 65-year-old. It's important.